Hello, and welcome back to America Today, the show that keeps you up to date with what's happening in America. I'm your host, Jack Walls. Tonight we have a very busy show. Our first headline comes from Madeline Van Devender, where she tells us about the American borough and its effects on America today. Madeline?
Hello, I'm Madeline, and I'm here to report the news. There is a problem with peace in our nation. All past Confederate leaders have been pardoned by President Johnson. We hope to reunite this nation. Anyways, Southern people still think they did the right thing in seceding, but I will leave that up to you to decide. Along with these issues, emancipation poses a problem to the South. It is taking effect unevenly in different parts of the old Confederacy. For example, many slaves have refused to join the Union out of loyalty to their masters. Even with this uneven emancipation, blacks find common ground in the church. Their church has become the focus of the black community, where they have formed their own churches and held their own sermons. Through this, many have learned to read and write. Even though slaves are beginning to gain their freedom, many freedmen are unskilled and have no property or money. Last week, to help freed slaves, Congress has passed the Freedmen's Bureau. Led by Union General Olive O. Howard, this program has provided clothing, medical care, food, and education to these people. It also included teaching them how to read and write. Although this act was good, it was very unpopular with the president and in the South. It will probably end soon. That's all from me. Now on to Lauren.
Following the assassination of President Lincoln, Andrew Johnson has big shoes to fill. Born to impoverished parents who died early in his life, ambitious Johnson has then moved up a lot. He served in Congress for many years, even being the only Confederate congressman not to leave Congress when the South seceded. He's a firm champion of states' rights, poor whites' rights, and the Constitution. Despite these virtues, the American people are not confident in his ability to lead. After all, Johnson's well known for his short temper and position as a political misfit. He's a Southerner who does not understand the North, Tennessean who is distrusted by the South, a Democrat not accepted by the Republicans, and most importantly, a president who has not been elected to office. In a poll, it was revealed that most Americans believe Johnson is not fit for presidency, not fit to continue late President Lincoln's job. In his tactless hands, Lincoln's Reconstruction policy will most surely fail. Okay. I've just received a report that President Johnson will be taking over President Lincoln's 10% plan, which sought to restore the Union by allowing Southern states to be able to reintegrate into the Union if and when only 10% of its voters take a pledge and an oath to the Union, as well as acknowledge the emancipation of the slaves. As most of you know, this plan resulted in a sharp reaction from the Congress, as Republicans feared it would result in the restoration of the planter aristocracy to power and the possible re-enslavement of black men and women. In fact, in retaliation, Republicans rammed the Wade-Davis bill through Congress, which Lincoln promptly pocket vetoed. This created great tensions between Congress and the presidency, as well as among fellow Republicans. Contrary to what most people expected, new President Johnson has just issued his own Reconstruction proclamation, stating that certain leading Confederates will lose the right to vote, that Confederate debt is repudiated, and that all states must recognize and ratify the 13th Amendment. This is Lauren Holly signing off. Next up, my associate, Kirsten Edgell.
Alright, thank you. And now for the update on Congressional Reconstruction and Johnson's clash with Congress. So, as we all know, in December 1865, when many of the Southern states were reintegrated into the Union, among them were former Confederates and Southern Democrats. And most Northern Republicans were disgusted to see their former enemies on hand to reclaim seats in Congress. During the war without the Southern states, the Northern Republicans had passed legislation that had favored the North, such as the Morrill Tariff, the Pacific Railroad Act, and the Homestead Act. So now, many Northern Republicans didn't want to give up the power that they had gained in the war. Northerners now realized that the South would be stronger politically than before, since now black people counted for a whole person instead of just 3/5 of one. And Republicans also feared that the Northern and Southern Democrats would join and then take over Congress and the White House and institute their black codes over the nation, defeating all that the Civil War gained. On December 6, 1865, President Johnson declared that the South had satisfied all the conditions needed and the Union was now restored. Now onto Johnson's clash with Congress. Johnson repeatedly vetoed Republican-passed bills such as a bill extending the life of the Freedmen's Bureau, and he also vetoed the Civil Rights Bill, which conferred on black people the privilege of American citizenship and struck at the black codes. As Republicans gained control of Congress, they passed the bills into laws with a 2/3 vote and thus overrid Johnson's veto. Now on to the update. In the 14th Amendment, the Republicans sought to instill the same ideas of the Civil Rights Bill. 1. All black people were American citizens. 2. If a state denied citizenship to black people, then its representatives in the Electoral College were lowered. 3. Former Confederates could not hold federal or state office. And 4. The federal debt was guaranteed while the Confederate one was erased. The Radicals were disappointed that black people weren't given the right to vote, but all Republicans agreed that states wouldn't be accepted back into the Union unless they ratified the 14th Amendment. Alright, that was all on the update over Congressional Reconstruction and the coverage over Johnson's clash with Congress. As always, I'm Kirsten Edgell, and thank you so much for sticking around. If there's any updates, we will let you know. Now, on to the next story, and on to you.
The former Confederate states are starting to pass laws intended to restrict the rights of African Americans. These black codes are punishing vagrancy, forcing freedmen to sign labor contracts, and blocked their right to vote. Violators that are subject to arrest and the labor of prisoners are auctioned off to the highest bidder. Some people are saying that black codes are creating an oppressive system of customs and laws intended to tightly restrict the civic and economic rights of African Americans. The first to pass this law is Mississippi, starting in November. States that are starting to pass this law or thinking about it are Louisiana, South Carolina, Florida, North Carolina, Texas, and Tennessee. The Republican Party is also saying that the black codes are mocking the idea of freedom and imposing terrible hardships on the blacks who are struggling against mistreatment and poverty to make their way as free people. With the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, former abolitionists have become delighted with the prohibitions of slavery in the U.S. Previously, the Women's Loyal League had gathered about 400,000 signatures for their petitions that asked Congress to pass a constitutional amendment prohibiting slavery. Now they are shocked to hear about the 14th Amendment, which was supposed to define equal national citizenship and only states how a man can have the right to vote. Many believe that the amendment did not include women in voting because feminist leaders had mostly advocated for black freedom and did not speak as much for women's rights.
Oh my gosh, breaking news, guys. An attack just happened right here in Louisiana, where I'm reporting from. A couple of members of the Ku Klux Klan, a white terrorist organization founded for the purpose of scaring colored people, just murdered or wounded 200 people here in Louisiana. I know, this is crazy, guys. Members have spoken anonymously spoken to the news, and they've said that, it's to keep the colored people in their place, and they're open to taking any bandits or cutthroats or scoundrels. This is just a very dangerous thing, guys. So beware of the Ku Klux Klan. But back to you guys.
1,000 people came to see if I was guilty. I was sober too. The rumors about maintaining a harem were all false. Radicals came in herds, so the rumor just probably spread around. But there is still no proof. I mean, just because I was ruled as not guilty first doesn't mean we gotta do it again. I mean, I said I would stop obstructing Republican policies. Isn't that enough? The impeachment is stupid. The House is stupid. Congress, stupid. I never would have been president if I had known about the idiots within. Wade is going to do a great job.
After gaining the right to vote from the 15th Amendment, blacks began to organize politically. They were strong participators in the Union League, which was originally a pro-union organization. Freedmen turned the Union League into a network of political clubs that educated members and campaigned for Republican candidates. In response to these efforts of the freedmen, the League also built black churches and schools, represented black grievances before local employers and governments, and recruited militias to protect black communities from white retaliation, a common thing after Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation was enacted. Many white Southerners felt that the Reconstruction was more painful than the war itself. During this Reconstruction, the Republican Party wanted to protect the freed slaves and to promote the fortunes of the Republican Party. These principles helped the Republican Party be removed from the South for nearly 100 years. Despite the good intentions by the Republicans, the Reconstruction did not really change the way that the South treated or viewed blacks.
Hi, I'm Olivia Hudson, and I'm talking with you live from the newly purchased Alaska. Due to Johnson's administration's success of maintaining foreign relations, Russia has renewed their offer to sell this chilly land of Alaska because of fear of war with Britain. Russia preferred to offer this region to the United States due to the desire of strengthening the American Republic as a barrier against the British. Expansionist William Seward signed a treaty with Russia that transferred Alaska to the United States for $7.2 million. Though Seward's folly occurred, which was Secretary of State William Seward's purchase of Alaska from Russia. It reflected the anti-expansionist sentiments of most Americans immediately after the Civil War. The United States Congress allowed the purchase because Russia had been really friendly and in favor of the Union during the Civil War. If the purchase would be denied, the United States would have greatly disrespected the Tsar. So glad we have this new region of furs, fish, gold, and natural resources. Have a good day, folks.
Well, that's all for tonight's show. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to all of our awesome reporters. This has been Jack Walls, and as always, get your money up, not your funny up.